Hey everyone, Eyal here. Hopefully audio works as intended. Let's make sure that my setup is set up. Ooh, this might be better now. Hopefully this is stronger and louder and clear. Hello, hello. How are you doing? All right. So, what I'm going to do now is I've been doing some bug fixing for our plugin BeatScholar today. And I thought that maybe there's a couple of interesting things here that might be cool to share. I'm just changing my little audio levels here so that I'm not overwhelming myself with my own voice. All right. So let's first show the problem that I want to be dealing with. So the bug that I'm trying to deal with in BeatScholar is BeatScholar has So BeatScholar has a multi-out feature. Hopefully, by the way, you can hear me and everything works, and audio is fine. I'm hoping. Okay, so the idea is, let's see if I can go back here to my bigger thing. Okay, so BeatScholar has a feature called multi-out, and I'm first going to show you how it works properly, and then we're going to show how it breaks in some DAWs. So let's start with Cubase, or let's even start with Reaper. Reaper is should be pretty good. So let's start with Reaper. Reaper is actually a good one, because one of the things that Reaper does, we're going to see it happen momentarily, is Reaper lets you map multi-outs automatically, and it's actually really nice in doing that. So I'm going to show how it works. So let me mute my own music for a second that I wish I could play for you as well, but I cannot. So here's Reaper. Let's bring it back on screen. And the way Reaper works, I'm going to remove this track and I'm going to load a new instrument track. It brings me this window, and let's pick BeatScholar VST3. You see BeatScholar reports 34 out. I'm going to add that. BeatScholar is going to load. Might be on a debug version of BeatScholar. Yes, here it is. So Reaper automatically suggested, hey, I can just build the routing for you. And actually, you can just click yes here. And once I click yes, Reaper basically did all of the work for me. You see it created a bunch of tracks, main, kick, snare. Now, if I just play a BeatScholar preset, it's going to play through the main. But once I click multi-out, I'm going to get separate tracks for kick, separate tracks for snare, and I can just do a mix, right? That's basically how we envisioned this feature working. So we wanted the user to just, open BeatScholar, say, hey, multi-out, get the thing, and then have their own plugins implemented for whatever. By the way, there's a little DC offset here, which I just fixed. So once I build the new version and not use this installer version, it should look much better. But this is the idea. So let's get out of Reaper. This works well. Let's try another DAW. Let's go to Cubase. Reaper is just the best. I mean, there are a few things that Reaper just does so well, and this one thing of multi-out, it just did so well. Like it's basically what you wanted, right? You wanted, because otherwise you would have to do manual routing. And some DAWs, and we're going to see this pretty soon, some DAWs just force you to do the routing yourself, and it's very annoying. Like basically, the Reaper kind of asks you, hey, because Reaper has manual routing as well. Like you can open Reaper, you can see a matrix of routes of the plugin, but this is really nice. Okay, so the thing is, I couldn't find a thing Reaper did not do well so far, except maybe the looks. Reaper does quite a lot not well, and we can talk about that as well. First of all, one of the big problems that Reaper does not do well is that the tools that it comes with are like for mixing and stuff are not good. So you have to get external tools. So that's a big problem. If you're used to something like Logic, Logic comes with so many like great plugins built in, so you can just mix. In Reaper, you get some effects in there, but they're not good, so you have to start, gathering external tools. So that's a big problem. The other thing I think Reaper does not well is when you go to do, when you start to do a lot of MIDI editing and song organizing. I feel like you can get it to work, but it's rough. Like it's kind of rough. There's a lot of little things that Cubase and Logic and Ableton Live does for song organizing that Reaper does not do well. I would say that what Reaper does do well is that it's got a lot of amazing in-depth features. So for example, when we made Mindset Drums and we had to export tens of thousands of samples with correct naming and microphones, like multi-mic situations and stuff like that, Reaper makes that so much easier because it has, little scripting and all these like tags you can put in and nested groups with automatic names, like all these like advanced features that just no other DAW has. They're awesome. There's also some weird things about how Reaper handles chains and automation. Like you can get it to work, but it's not super intuitive. There's an extension that gives you the same effect panel that Live has. I don't know what it's called. The effect rack on the bottom, like the drum rack. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to go too deep into Reaper here because I want to fix something that the bug I'm actually going to show. I want to show Cubase just for a second with the same plugin with BeatScholar. But after we'll see it, I will show the bug, and the bug actually happens in DAWs like Ableton Live and not in any of those. Somebody's calling me. Okay. Florian would be proud for me for opening Cubase. I mean, Cubase is my main DAW. Like that's what I've been producing on for most of my life. So I'm definitely very, very fluent in Cubase land. Anyway, let's take BeatScholar here. And the way Cubase does this is BeatScholar loads. It doesn't ask me anything about the multi-outs. It kind of assumes that I don't want the multi-outs. And instead, what it expects me to do is to go to something like routing and then open, where is that? Open this. And then I can just click all outputs. And this will activate all the outputs. They're not activated by default. So I need to activate them. It's going to take a second. Now I have them activated, and then I have all the channels just like Reaper, right? So I can have them by default. BeatScholar sends them to the stereo, but I can switch to multi-outs, right? I have the separate kick, and I can open inserts on the kick, and it's all very, very convenient. So this is good stuff. This is how it's supposed to work. This is good. Here is where the problem lies. Let's open Ableton Live. So this is Ableton Live. And let's open BeatScholar right here on a track. Here it is. And I might have a audio setting problem. I hate when that happens. Output goes here. Is it going to be enough for it to work? Oh, I hate when that happens. Sometimes I have routing issues with Ableton Live. I'm not sure why that happens. It goes to 1, 2. What am I missing here? Why is it not going to what it should do? let's get out and get back in. It's not a problem with BeatScholar, but it's just a problem with Ableton Live not routing the audio into my interface for some reason. Let's see why that happens. Let's see why that happens. No. Okay. If I'll send this is some other output, it's going to be okay. Like let's say main out 3, 4. Oh, that's weird. I'm blacking out. Why does this happen? Let's go to some other buffer size. Still nothing. What am I missing here? Why is my Ableton Live setup screwed up? Did I not give it some, maybe system preferences? I need to give it some permissions. Let's see. Security. Mount the latest version of Live. Let's see what happens if I load. I should have Live 11 here as well, right? No, did I delete the other version? Maybe I delete the other version. Let's see. It's writing native. What else did I miss in my? Let's see if we can get a. Yeah, it's not playing anything. I wonder why. If anyone is a Live Pro in here, they can tell me what am I missing. Which version do I have? I am the latest version. That's interesting. So what could be screwed up here? What could be screwing up with the playback engine? Because that would actually be really useful for this little live setup. It's not playing through anything. It's almost like it's play through any of the... Okay, something just happened. No, still nothing. What if I have to restart my my sound card or something? I hope I don't, because that might create problems with the stream. Let's see. What else have I missed here that could be an issue? Not sure what this could be. May have gotten Ableton Live to crash with my experimentation here. But still no sound. Okay, I might need to restart my computer here with the hopes that I would get sound. But this might need to get out of the stream. Okay, I'm gonna put this scene on, restart my computer, and come back. Stay tuned. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. Now my Ableton Live setup should be working. At least was working, and up until I started the stream. It's gonna work? No. So once I started OBS, Ableton Live died. It was working perfectly up until that very second. Oh. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. Now my Ableton Live setup should be working. Hear myself now talk from somewhere. Okay. So it looks like I'm not going to be able to do Ableton Live with the stream. Why is that? Why is my OBS behaving very strangely? Basically completely took over. Oh, I know what that is. Hang on a second. What if I... Okay, sorry. This was my bad. Fixed it. Okay, something about my routing thing took over. I set it up to take over live. Okay, this is great. Imagine a DAW in Minecraft developing block VSTs. Yeah, why not? Why not? I wonder if you can, Minecraft is kind of Turing complete. I wonder if you can actually build it inside of Minecraft with some builder setup. I don't know. Probably possible. Anyway, let's go back to showing what the bug is so that I can start fixing it. So the bug is when I put BeatScholar as a plugin here in Ableton Live. Okay, there's a question. How to change the pitch of the instruments, assign scales and modes. Are we talking about BeatScholar specifically or something else? What is the question? Like where, which plugin or setup are we talking about? Okay, so meanwhile, I'll explain. So when I open BeatScholar, here you're going to see the bug that I'm going to be trying to solve now live. So hopefully you can hear this, right? This should be streaming through, hopefully. Okay, so it plays through that. The thing is, when you want to do multi-out, Ableton Live does something weird. Unlike these other DAWs that we've just seen, where it's just like you click this thing, enable all outputs, and it works. In Ableton Live, you have to do this manual process. Like you have to open another audio file and it says audio from BeatScholar from the kick, right? This would enable the kick. And then if I enable multi-out here, so I get in here in BeatScholar, I get all the channels. And here, you see, I just get the kick channel, right? So basically I would have to like rename this to kick. And then I would have to go to another track and say audio from BeatScholar, go to snare. Enable that, right? Now, this is just the snare channel. These are the kick channels that I can mix. And I would actually have to do that for every single channel. This is very annoying. But other than the fact that it's annoying, that's how it works, right? That's how Ableton Live works. I cannot fix Ableton Live right now. But it did expose a bug in BeatScholar and an interesting bug in plugins as well. The bug is, now this worked as intended because I mapped all the channels in order. Like I mapped the kick, then I mapped the snare. Now, what would happen if I just mapped the snare? Let's hear it. Do you hear that? This says snare, but what you hear is the kick. This is a bug. The problem is, BeatScholar kind of does the multi-out mapping pretty primitively. It assumes that that if the DAW has enabled certain outputs, then then they will enable, they would have enabled all the outputs in order. But this is not correct. You could enable just the snare. Like you might not need the kick in a separate channel. So this is what I'm going to be fixing right now. And to do this, I'm going to hopefully fix it in a way that's a little bit generic, code-wise. And for that, we need to talk a little bit about how buses work in the DAW in a plugin. So this is now going to be full-on C++ land. And I might even create a, maybe I'll even create a dummy plugin to test that. That will be fun. Before I even start to modify BeatScholar. So what I want to do is I want something where the user can map, let's say enable or disable outputs. And for example, I'm going to have like one output do something like have a note play or something, or have a white noise play, something like that. And then I want the user to be able to enable and disable different channels and still, hear individual tracks, just like in BeatScholar, right? So there's going to be some mapping. But the thing is, I want the plugin to not just react to what the user wanted. I want them to react to what the DAW is supplying, because what we just saw in Ableton Live is that the user can enable and disable these outputs. The user can say, I just want the snare enabled. I don't necessarily want the kick or whatever, some other channel enabled. They can kind of pinpoint the channels they want and select those. And we want to handle these situations correctly. We want to make sure that we, still give the user the right routing regardless of what they enabled or not. So let's talk about this, and let's start by creating a. I have this thing called prototypes, and I'm going to create a new plugin in here. It's going to be called multi-bus tester or something, tester. Okay. And I should have something like super basic. It's going to be the most basic thing here. Oh, sorry, not prototypes. Let's put it in plugins, because it's a plugin. Multi-bus tester. These are just a million plugins that I opened. They're just like things I test with my library. What is the simplest plugin that exists here? MIDI to CV. Maybe. Here it is, Transposer. This should be pretty simple. Let's grab Transposer, copy paste it into multi-bus tester. And then I should put it in the build by doing something like set build multi-bus tester true. I don't need BeatScholar for now. I don't know why my shortcuts are not working. Okay. Where are you? Multi-bus tester. Here you are. Let's give you some settings like multi-bus tester. Just the name of the plugin, target sources, process CVP, blah, 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 blah. I don't even need the MIDI processors here. This shouldn't do any MIDI. And then, okay, so there's, so the question is, BeatScholar instruments produce tones when sent to tonal instrument. but they are fixed. Yes, I mean okay. So this is a good point about the way the BeatsColor sequencer works. So let me just explain the question here. I'll open BeatsColor to explain this more thoroughly in a minute. But the idea is that the BeatsColor sequencer really meant originally for drums. So it was meant to have, you know, a pitch like C3, but that C3 is like mapped usually to some kick drum, right, or snare drum, something. And you can change that, right? If you go to the map, let me just open a standalone BeatsColor before I start to deal with the code. But when you go into BeatsColor, you can click map, right? You see here map, and then you can change the notes. You can hit something like D2 or something. There's actually another bug here that I will fix shortly, probably in this stream as well. It types the wrong octaves, but the idea is that you can, you know, scroll it to some other note, and this would change the notes of that pad. Basically, now that pad, the kick pad, is going to send out this MIDI note. So that's how you change it. It's not the most flexible thing to do in BeatsColor, because BeatsColor is really meant for drums, but you can use this to create a scale. I think we even have some presets like that, right? Or maybe we don't. There should be some, but anyway, the idea is that you can make a preset and save a kit preset that would have like C major or something. Like, let's say this would be like C1, this would be D1, right? E, right? So you can make a preset that has these C major keys or something. It's not the most flexible way to do, you know, melodic sequencing, but this would work. That's what people use, for example, when they have to map external synthesizers or drum machines or something. So that's how they do that. They create a map, you save it as a kit. The kit would save this map, and you can even lock it. Like, let's say you want to change sequences, you lock it. You see there's a little lock in here. You lock it, and then you change the sequence, and this is going to keep the mapping set. So that's how it works. I hope that made sense, and I'm happy to go over this more, especially if I'm going to use this opportunity to solve this little text box problem, which I just discovered. So we need to solve this. Okay. Anyway, so this little plugin I got, it's called Multibus Tester. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dummy plugin. Let's call it Multibus Tester. That's the name of the plugin. I don't need this. Params can just do nothing. We can just have an empty parameters list. So I don't think I need parameters for now. Let's see, what does this processor do? I don't need this. The test synth I might need. Let's see, Multibus Tester. Let's just struct this. I hate extra words unless I'm using them. Struct. Default constructor I don't need. Blah, 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 blah. I think I even have a nicer like process function, right? That I made. Process. Right? Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I have this like test synthesizer. I'm just going to play some. Let's just make it play synth process. Right, I should be able to. Oh, this is an actual synth. I don't need this to be a synth. I can just use something like a sine oscillator. And this OSC needs to be prepared with sample rate. That's it, right? Just a sample rate. And then OSC, process, the buffer, and I can just set the pitch, right? Set frequency, something like 100 hertz. That should be good. Let's see if this works. Oh, and now it's only standalone. Let's add VST3. Let's give it some plugin code like MBTS, multi-bus tester. So I'm just going to create a dummy plugin. Now it's just going to play a sine wave. So using nice stuff from my library that does this with like very little boilerplate. Boilerplate. Okay. You can't see this, but there's a beautiful. Let's go to my. There you go. Beautiful. Beautiful sine wave playing at 100 hertz. Good. So this is just a sine wave, and what I want to start doing is I want to start creating a multi-bus plugin. So let's do. So first of all, what I need to do is when the processor gets initialized, by default, at least my plugin processor does this, is that initializes it. Nick says ship it. Amazing. Yes, exactly. Done. 100 hertz, sine wave. What else do you need in life? Come on. Everyone is going to spend just a ton of money on this. Okay, so what I need to do is insane. All right, so we get the 100 hertz. Hopefully it made everyone happy, and we can just go. It'll go. But the idea is, so now when we initialize the processor, we can also pass it the bus's properties. This is something that comes from Juice. So I have a bunch of like little abstraction layers around this, which we can talk about on why I do this and whatever. But the idea is you can also initialize an audio processor with a bus's properties. And that's how you can tell the audio, the host, that you have more than one output, for example. So let's try to do this. Let's initialize the processor, and I'm going to initialize the processor with, let's call it buses properties, get properties. Something, I think this needs to be static. Do I need to give it the full type? Yeah. Okay, so it's a template type. So the full type. I template processors based on the state. This is a very interesting design decision that we made a while ago that I really love. Like, the idea is that the state is kind of separate. So this was really useful because we can then create, for example, UIs based on the state without having the processor in there at all. So I can create a UI only version, for example, of BeatScholar, and it does not require a processor. It's just a UI. I can generate multiple UIs or multiple windows based on the same state without being connected to the single processor. So it's a very scalable design. So the processor is just templated on the type of state. And now we can initialize it with some properties. So the properties would be something like auto properties equals properties. And properties allow me to add layouts. So I should be able to just add input layouts think I just can do this, right? And add a layout. So let's do something like auto stereo equals buses layout. How's this called? Sorry, it's audio channel stereo. So this is it's a function, right? Yes. So this is just and then I can create can I just create it with a new so I need something like auto layout equals juice buses layout. Right, because this is a vector of bus properties, sorry. Bus. Right, how do I, what does this take? I forgot this is an array of bus properties. Oh, okay. So bus name, layout, but there should be like a constructor for this, right? Where I'm, oh, there should be like a constructor. Here we go, add bus, this is what I need. So add bus is input, name, and the channel set. So add bus, the input is true, the name is like input or something, and this is stereo, and enable by default, true. Okay, that's good. Then let's do, let's have some outputs. So let's have something like main out. Right, this says is input, right? Is input. Okay, so this is going to be an output, and let's call it something like let's call it main out, and let's do I'm going to call it sine wave out. Sine wave out, and I can do just square wave. This will be the other one, square wave out. Return properties. So these are my properties for the plugin. The other thing we need to do is there's another function that says is buses layout supported. It's also something I need to kind of do to make sure that I can work with any kind of configuration, because the DAW might not have all these different outputs available, so it would present to me different layouts. So what I'm going to do is layout. Yeah, so let's do if layout. Get, yeah, so let's do something like that. Layout get channel what's this called? Get just realize I'm not listening to any music. My Spotlight search went crazy on me for some reason. I don't know why. Okay. And this is called get. Is this why I need get buses? I'm completely confused. I don't think I should need to call this. What does the layout give me? The layout gives me because I need all the different buses, right? This is just a main output, but how do I get? Oh, get channel set. Is this what I need? to use to get those. Keep forgetting the interface on all of these classes. Basically, if layout get main output, but I need something about like the number of buses. Oh, I just have this. Okay, good. So if the number of if it's not equal to 1, or let's say smaller or equals to 1, because 0 output is also fine by me. I'm not going to be processing any inputs. So then, sorry, if it's bigger than 1, basically return false. So we're not going to work with this. If layout input buses, so num inputs equals this. So if the number inputs is 1 and layout input buses 0 channel, how do I get the layout of this channels here? So this is an array of channel set. Okay, so I can just check if it's stereo. So I can do the same thing with this. So if it's stereo, if it's 1 and it's not stereo, return false. Okay, so that's basically what I want to check. So I want to check that it's more than 1. So it's exactly 1 or 0, and if it's 1, I want to make sure that it's stereo. Now let's go for the outputs. So for the outputs, I want to make sure that num outputs equals layout output buses dot size, and if the number of outputs is larger than 3, return false, or if it's 0, because I don't want to work. I can't work with or so these are not going to work for me, including 0. 0 is not going to be acceptable. Now, if I have any kind of other outputs, I would allow the DAW to customize those. So, but I do want to also only support stereo outputs. I don't want to support mono. So what I want to do is for O2 output layout output buses, and then if output isn't stereo, return false. And if we get all the way over here, this should mean we're good. So we're supporting 1 output, 2 output, 3 outputs, but we're not supporting a mono output or something like that. This should be the general idea of how we configure this. Okay, so let's see if this indeed is how this shows up in the DAW. So I'm going to build a VST3 version of this. Once we have this tester, the idea is I'm going to write a generic thing that would solve this for the use case of this. I'm just going to And then we can do something that, for example, play different waveforms through this. And then I can pass this to BeatScaler so that BeatScaler can play the different drums through these buses, regardless if they're enabled or not. I wonder why this takes so long to link. What's going on over here? This should not be taking that long. This looks strange. Yeah, let's cancel this. Okay, this looks better. All right, so let's load it in Cubase. Let's make an empty project. Load up this instrument called multi-bus tester. Here it is. It plays that, this annoying note, and let's see what it says. We can just remove this, just not play that note, and let's see what the routings of these are doing. I can open the routing window, which opens somewhere else. Oh, here you go. So I have the main. See, main stereo, sine wave out, and square wave out, and I can enable those, and this works. It works, and then it starts to, for some reason, play this through other outputs, which I did not intend. Right, this was not what I wanted to have happened, but this is just a little bug. Okay, so multi-out works. Let's remove this. Let's make a nice commit in my code base. Oh, this is just something I did before, so let's call this something like, I don't even need to do this. Let's remove this. I'll do this later. But let's commit, added basic multi-bus tester test project. Great. Okay, we got this done. This works. So we have a multi-bus thingy, and now we have to change our processor to actually dispatch things in different buffers. Let's see how we can do this. First of all, let's see if we can create more of these. So let's create one sine oscillator, and let's create one. Let's call this one sine. Let's call it square. Do I have white noise? I should have something like an oscillator. I should have one that does the white noise as well. Let's start with that. So so the sine needs to be prepared, and also the square needs to be prepared with the sample rate. And when I'm processing these, sine is this, square is this, and square I just need to set square true. So there's just the sine, my little sine tester can also do a square for the sake of this test. Great. And then when I'm processing these, I can just do sine process. Now here, instead of taking a buffer, the raw buffer would have any number of channels from the DAW. Like it could have, 2 channels, 4 channels. It could have any kind of combination of them. And we can just do like, hey, write this, and BeatScholar does something kind of like this. It says, well, if 3, 4 are available or they exist, write the square into them. But I don't like that. Now here's where I'm just going to put buffer in here just so that it will appear to be compiling. But this would just stack them together, I think, or replace one with the other or something. Not what I want. Here is where I need something that manages buses. So let's start. I'm going to put it in here, but very soon I'm going to move it to another place in the library. Let's call it EA Audio. Let's call it multi-bus. Yeah, let's call it like this. And what this is going to do is there's going to be something here that's going to call it like a let's see how are we getting the buses in process block. I think we get something like get bus, right? Yes. So what we could do is we could initialize it with the audio processor. Processor to use. And this is going to be an object that when we construct it, it should give us all the information that we need so that we can ask for a buffer. I think we can just use the buffer, right? It's not, how am I calling this? Right, so I think I'm just calling it a buffer. Right, I don't need to call it an audio buffer. Is that right? Do I call it just buffer float everywhere? Is that what I did? Buffer float? If that's what I did, that's annoying. I probably should have called it just buffer. Whatever. Let's call it buffer float. So the this is going to be something that will supply me the buffer that I need for each of those elements. But the buffer is actually going to be a pointer to a buffer. Let's explain a little bit about how this is going to work. So let's do something like get buffer. Let's start with an index. An index would be good. So let's do something like an int index. No accept. And Juice Audio Buffer is a great feature where it can actually just point to another audio buffer. So one way to handle this is to do something like, because I can just do something like processor get bus, ask for that bus as input. Do I care about the inputs in this case? Let's call get output buffer, get output. This is better. So this is going to call processor get bus false. And first of all, I need to check if this actually exists. So I think it's possible that I would not have that bus. So if processor get buses, how do I get the bus layout? Is this just giving me a reference to these, or is this like doing like a bunch of copies? No, this actually does some audio, some memory allocation actually. Not good. Not good. So I need to, yeah, so I don't need to create, temporary of this. I need to initialize this right away, right? So that's interesting. How am I going to do this? What is the way to do this? What is the way to do this that does not allocate memory? Set bus layer. Okay. bus buffer. So I wonder. Let's see what's the real-time friendly way to get these. Get bus index is main. Okay. If it is called get bus, is that okay? Get bus implementation. This is not ideal what just happened, what happens here, because this if I inherit from the processor, do I get access to this, like input layouts? Is that public or protected if I do this? No, right? It's not exposed to me. Okay, so I'll need to cache those somehow. So I would probably need something like a buses so I'll need something like a prepare, because I think I would always get a prepare call when this happens. So prepare would just do layout equals processor dot get bus layout. So this is how I will cache those, and then I should be able to do exactly. So if I get output, so I should be able to do layout dot output buses. So if index is larger than larger or equals to layout dot output buses dot size. The question is, if I do that, do I want to give it the main buffer or do I want to do nothing? Right? That's an interesting question about this. One way to handle this is to provide nothing, right? Provide nothing, or I can provide it a mix into the main buffer. That's another possibility. We'll have to think of these two cases, because we do need that option BeatScholar, for example, to mix into the main buffer if that does not exist, right? So if we don't have it, so one way to do this is we can also offer something like a pointer or something, or like an invalid buffer. That might be a good way to do this. And then if it's not valid, let's start by assuming that if it's not valid, I'm going to provide the main outputs, the main output, and see what happens if we do that. That might be a good start, a good default for now. So if it does not exist, then it's going to return. And it needs it. It should have the bus buffer, that get bus buffer, right? Return. Oh, I still need to have the process block buffer when I do this. So let's imagine that when I get this, I also store the block buffer. Then at some point, there's something like set buffer, buffer float. Something like that. We store that. We're going to store that from the processor. Sorry, this. We're going to store the pointer to this buffer so we can have access to it. And then, so if we do that, get bus buffer, so is input false and the index. Is that what we need? Oh, with the block buffer. And otherwise, we need some, if it's not possible, let's start by just giving it the input. I'm probably going to customize that even more. So otherwise, I'm going to give it 0. I'm going to assume there's always a 0. And we do not support like no outputs, but we probably need somewhere to handle this as well. So we'll think about that situation. So this is our multibus thing. It's initial to the processor. We call it on prepare. I think that should be pretty good. And then we call it set buffer, and then we can get the outputs from it. Let's see if that works. So I'm here, and I should be able to. This is buffer float. So multibus. It's going to take it this. When we prepare, we do multibus dot multibus dot prepare, just to update the config from the DAW. And then here, instead of giving it a buffer, we can give it these two separate buffers. So we can give it, first of all, we have to start by saying multibus dot set buffer, so it will have the correct buffer from the DAW, and then we can do multibus get output 0, and this would be, this might take a reference, so we need something like O2 sign buff equals this. O2 square buff equals multibus get output. Let's not make it 1. Let's make it this 1 and this 2 square buff. Let's not put a bug there until this is actually a bug. And this is the general idea, right? The idea is that there's going to be a separate audio buffer for each of these oscillators. But if that doesn't exist, it should mix. This should return the main buffer, the master buffer. And let's just debug and see if I did something wrong here. See if there's some assert or something horrible that I did. Okay, what just happened? Oh, here we go. So if you use this method, they do not want it side by side. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. My little standalone thing does not like this multiple output setup. Oh, so it couldn't disable non-main buses. So why is it not successful? Turn set buses layout. This is because I told it I'm not supporting this probably. So there's a little bug here. Let's see, what am I not supporting exactly? Oh, it was trying to give me an output of mono. Is that what happened? Should be able to compare this, right? Compare channels. So it looked like it was trying to initialize this with some non-stereo version. Let's see why. Layout outputs. What should I have? Can I know something about this output? Output dot. Why am I getting this? What kind of configuration am I getting here that's different? I have more than one thing enabled. Should still be stereo and stereo, right? If number of outputs larger than 0 or number of outputs bigger than 3. Okay. So I wonder if what kind of configuration is it given me for these buses, because I think it should still be stereo, right? Or maybe it's this. Maybe it's called disabled. Maybe that's the problem. Oh, because it can also be disabled. Okay, so let's also let it do disabled. But if it's stereo, but am I gonna allow one? No. So I think I'll do this. I think I'll do the first. Okay, so if layout output buses 0. is equals to stereo, or if it's not. So I'm not going to let you disable the main outputs for now. And for the other ones, I'm going to allow either stereo or what is that thing called? So let's also do auto disabled equals to okay. So I'm going to allow you for the other ones to use disabled. I think this should clear the assertion. No, so it's not disabled if it's not equals to stereo, or and it still falls in here. So it's either stereo, it's not stereo or disabled. Huh. So what is this? What is this output? It's giving me 4. Like, is this something that I created? I asked for that. Some quadraphonic thing. What can I know about this output? Oh, description. Good. So description. Okay. It is stereo. What? If it's not equals to stereo, or oh, and oops. Okay, good. It's not hitting discrete, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What's discrete? What does it mean, discrete 0? It's interesting that I'm getting that. Discrete 0. What does it even mean? Discrete channels. Untyped discrete channels. But I guess it's disabled, so that's why it's kind of appears weird like that. Okay, I'm going to start with that. So hopefully this is good enough. Now let's see what this should do in Cubase now. and hopefully in the other DAWs as well. This should hopefully in Cubase mix everything to the main bus if I do not have the others enabled. Mix but if I will have them enabled, I should get separate tracks. So let's see if that worked. So instrument, multibus tester. Okay, so now I should have both of them mixed. Let's enable the probably pretty loud. I hope it's not killing me with loudness. Let's see how loud this is. Oh wow, it's probably super loud. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Now let's open all the outputs. There we go. Perfect. There's a crazy bug here. Okay, this sounded horrible. Was not intended. So let's see what the problem is. I may have been using this bus buffer thing wrong. So let's see why. Okay, this is also probably not true. I think. How does this work if there are no? Oh, and I think I should also do if and then layout output buses index. If it's not disabled, it's also important probably. See if I can reproduce this problem with the standalone. Okay, I should be able to open multiple buses here, so it's not letting me open multiple, right? Just one. Okay, that's not good. Okay, so let's do it with the VST3 version. Let's see if I can do this. Let's attach it so that it's going to run Cubase, Macintosh HD. Sorry, applications. Cubase. Open that. Open up outputs. So definitely does not seem to have worked correctly. Let's see why not. Okay, so it looks like it when I ask it for 1, it says it's not available. How many output buses do I have? 3. Okay. So if the index is larger than the size and it's not disabled, is that what happens? The problem is disabled. Let's add some debugging helpers here. So let's do O2 outputs equals this. So then if outputs, if index less than, maybe this was the problem, less than if outputs index is not disabled, maybe this would be more correct. Otherwise, get the first one. Let's see if this is better. Let's try again. Open this. Open the multibus tester. There's no sound now, which is kind of concerning. But let's open these. Okay, so the multi-out works. This gives me a sine wave. Gives me a square wave. So this works. What doesn't work is the fallback. I was expecting that if there's no such outputs, it's going to give me the main bus. It's going to basically go over to here. So let's disable these again. Keep just the one main one. This should enter this branch, but it doesn't. Let's see why. So I go here. And even though it's, in my opinion, should be disabled, looks like it's not. For some reason, looks like Cubase is not telling me that it's disabled. So that's interesting. I wonder why. Is that because I did not get a call for this prepare? Like it's possible that did Cubase not call me with prepare to play when this was updated? Let's see. Let's make a change. It did call me, right? Here it is. Let's disable. It did call me. So I do know that what the bus's layout is. And I should know that it's disabled. That's interesting. So basically, it looks like Cubase is refusing to even tell me that it's disabled or not. It looks like it's always enabled. Interesting. Let's see what Ableton Live is going to do in this situation. Okay. I have a multibus tester here. First of all, I still have a problem because yeah, so this does not work as it should. I should hear sound right away. But if I get a thing for the multibus tester, yeah, so it looks like the disable thing was not working as I was expecting. Let's see why not. And that probably means that the standalone would also fail for me now, right? Let's see if the standalone is working correctly. Okay, the standalone doesn't. So my standalone does report the disabled outputs correctly, but I think that Cubase or Ableton Live did not report the output as disabled. So we need to figure out what it is exactly they're reporting, so that I will know how to handle this situation. Maybe they don't let me know. Maybe I have to just handle it somehow. Because what I could do is I could just say, well, I'm just gonna, if the user is in multi-out mode, which is probably correct. If the user is in multi-out mode, I just route to those outputs and the host is going to be in charge if they're enabled or not, which is probably, maybe that's correct. Yeah, because maybe that's what I should be doing. I should just send those outputs and work like this, unless those outputs don't exist somehow with the thing. So that's basically the core idea of this. So let me move all of this into the library somewhere, and we can maybe even test it in BeatScholar and see exactly what BeatScholar needs. So so I have something here: toolbox, modules, audio. It's probably under plugins, plugin utils. What would be a good place to put this in? Oh, here we go. I already made something like this, but I think this is not what I needed. This is bus buffers. Oh, here we go. I already made something kind of like this, but I don't think that is as true as what I need in this case. Okay, let's call it multibus. Only these needs to be public and private, so you can have some decent interface on this. And the question is, do you ever use LLMs for debugging? I use LLMs. I don't know how good it is for debugging, but I do use LLMs when I write code. I've used it in some of my streams, especially if I have to deal with like a domain I don't know much about, like a new library or some math concept that I've never tried before. I would definitely use LLM for that. For debugging, it's going to be difficult because it's hard to give the context to the LLM. Like, it needs quite a lot of code to know the context. But sometimes if it's like an isolated function, I kind of can copy paste the function and say, what do you think about that function? What could be the problem? I've not found it to be very good at that. Again, because of the context problem, like it's hard. But if it's isolated, like if it's math, and I can say, okay, well, I have this math function. It's not giving me the right results. Can you tell me why? Then maybe it works. Or if I have something like, hey, here's my function and it crashes. Why does it crash? Yeah, like you can use that. It's not the greatest tool, I feel like, for that, but it works. All right. Okay, so let's see if we can get this implemented in BeatScholar. So in BeatScholar, or let's first of all implement it in the multibus tester, just so that it's gonna compile for us. So now it's gonna be something like, maybe I should call it plugins. Plugins. What did I do the other thing? Plugin. And then the tester. Something like that. That's pretty clean. Okay, so let's go to, first of all, let's see that this compiles and commit this. While I'm doing this, I am going to make sure that I don't have a version of BeatScholar from the installer here, because this would screw things up. Okay, so I'm going to commit this and say that I moved multibus class to the shared library. Okay, that's good. Now let's look at BeatScholar. So I'm going to bring BeatScholar back into the build. And let's see what BeatScholar does here. So BeatScholar goes to BeatScholar audio. There's a module, a juice module for just for the audio part of BeatScholar. BeatScholar does a bunch of stuff with multi-out logic. We don't need to change that. What we need to do is, so BeatScholar has this thing called, it's basically calls this thing called a sampler. Okay, and now it gets, so far it gets a buffer for MIDI state transfer view is MIDI effect, a bunch of things. Sampler process synth. Here we go. So this pad groups process, blah, 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 blah. This is the interesting part. So what this currently does is this thing called pad groups, this thing tries to figure out Came hoping to see some nice keyboards. Found a cool bug hunt. Yes. Yes. That definitely happens. That definitely happens. Both of these happen on this channel for whatever reason. I just uploaded, I don't know which channel you're on, but if you're on my channel, just uploaded a Beatles cover a couple of days ago, which was like a Beatles piano arrangement. That was fun. Feel free to check it on the shorts bit of the channel. Also, if you're on my channel, check out the Pat Metheny cover arrangement I made with Omri Abramov. That's also on the channel. Anyway, so the idea is now this does something where this tries to figure out what is the buffer it needs to use. And this is where it gets interesting. So this is where the interesting logic happens. So I would need to kind of propagate through this whole idea about the buffers, because right now it just tries to use the buffer, get number of channels, and this is not good. This is not what it should be doing. Groups, auxes, blah, blah, blah. Because there's a bunch of like stuff that the mixer is doing here, which is kind of unrelated. Because all the mixing is done on the mixer's own buffers. There's a bunch of stuff with how the effects are processed, auxiliary tracks, mixes, all that stuff is just done with internal buffers. But then this is where it gets interesting. So if it's multi-out and buffer, okay, so this is where pad groups actually needs to take, instead of, does it need to know which multi-out is it? If it's multi-out mode, yes, I guess we can do that. So we can do that if it's, yeah, that should be a good thing. So let's instead also add here plugin multibus. So I'm going to have to propagate this through the interface. So buses. And it is this when this exists, this would just need to do if it's multi-out. Forget about this adjusted index stuff. I don't need that. Yeah, I don't need adjusted index. I can just do that if it's multi-out. Copy the channel of the group sub into not buffer, but it's going to be something like let's do something like this. Let's do something like buffer float gets output buffer. Do I have the index, right? So int index bool multi-out. No, this would even be a static, right? I can just make this a, right? I don't need any, I can just make this here. So get output buffer. And the idea is that if it's multi-out, or if it's not multi-out, yeah, if it's not multi-out, just index is equal 0. And just return buses get output index. So this, we've already handled all this logic. It's going to be const. We've already handled all this busing logic with the multibus, I think. But we do need to know if we're copying or mixing it. That's going to be important, I guess. So right? Yeah, that is interesting. Because we do need this, something we might need kind of encapsulated in this, because that logic where if we're, because if an output for something doesn't exist, we need to mix it into something. So we probably need to mix it. Because am I clearing this buffer on the way in? I do. Okay, I'm clearing this on the way in. So I don't even need to even worry about copy. I can just do mix. Slightly slower, but I don't even need to do this. So I just do a mix into buffer and take it into the index. So the buffer is going to be something like O2 buffer equals get output buffer buses index multi-out. This is the buffer. I just need this, right? Just mix. Or let's call it O2 target buff. Oh, and if that's the case, I don't even need the buffer in there, right? Do I need the buffer in there? I don't. So what I do need, though, is I need to make sure the multibus thing actually exposes the get num samples, because this is needed. Const no accept. And I can just make sure that this bus is instead of the buffer. And the interface can just be changed to work with that. So and now I'm going to get a bunch of compile errors because this interface does not expect this to happen, but it now would. So, don't build a multibus tester, build BeatScholar. The question is, hey Al, have you ever wanted to do game dev or something on those lines? Yes, I absolutely did. I don't know if you've been following. I was doing a little, that I'm going to continue doing this, writing like a rhythm game project. And I am definitely interested in game dev. Very much so. I would love to do game dev. Yes, that is the short version of the answer. Love games. I love game dev. And would love to find my angle in that world. But I mean like 3D video game stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested in that. And I've done a few streams on OpenGL and graphics and stuff, but I'm not an expert, so that I can just come in and do amazing things right away. But I would love to be able to do that, for sure. For sure. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. BeatScholar, blah, blah, blah. Good. Okay. So now I'm going to need to pass this through a few layers of the interface. So do I need the buffer here? Main buffer. Okay, yes. So I can actually have the main buffer stuff as a part of this. So instead of passing a buffer, again, I'm going to pass a plugin multibus. Let's call it buses, or let's just call it multibus. Multibus. And let's have another function there called get main buffer. And let's call it get main output. Get main output. So this might so now I can just do multibus get main output. This would just process the whole multibus thing. That's good. Now we're going to have to pass it through another layer of the interface probably, but not too many. Small opportunity. Since we live in a fast-paced world, I will now continue to say hey Al instead of hey Al. Exactly. Exactly. You know, Hank Kingsley have already trademarked hey now, but hey Al is almost as good. So I like it. Okay, so now the plugin This is not even the plugin at this point, right? So this would need to take the plugin multibus. I see some annoying sea lion bugs in the latest version here. Anyway. Just to be clear, everything we just did was to create this thing called the multibus, and then we passed it to layers of BeatScholar, so that eventually BeatScholar, once I finish kind of passing it through the interface and make everything compile, BeatScholar should handle something like when Ableton Live only maps the snare and the kick or something. This should still work, I hope. Might still not work, so we'll see. I might still be missing something. But I think this would work. Process synth, good. So now the plugin, is this the plugin? No, this is still the sampler. So the sampler again should take a plugin multibus. Okay, so the master meter can just take the, now we have multibus get main output. Okay, that's good. Now are we on the plugin level? Yes, good. So now we can add plugin multibus, which would take this. And there's a couple of stages here. One is on the prepare stage. We have to do multibus prepare. This just updates the buses because they might change in each call here. Then right before we process, we need to do multibus set buffer. And from that point on, we can just pass the multibus. Okay, this should compile. Okay, first of all, let's see the standalone works. Standalone should have no multi-out, just stereos. This is standalone. Let's pick a preset. Let's switch to use Fireface. Good. In standalone, we have no multi-out, so it doesn't really matter, but it works. Now let's go to the VST3 version. And if this is good, we may have gotten another bug fixed. So just a reminder, what used to happen before is we would load BeatScaler. If we loaded it in Cubase, it would be fine because Cubase or Reaper auto map all the outputs. But if you mapped partially, then things would fail. Like you would only map the snare, you would still get the kick in there because the logic was corrupted. Now I should be able, we're gonna see this in a second. Now I'm just loading Ableton Live, and what should happen is I should be able to load this new version of BeatScaler that I just built. That isn't showing up for, oh, because I built the multibus tester and not BeatScaler VST3. So now this version of BeatScaler should handle this mapping correctly. Like it should be saying, oh, well, I know you've mapped the snare there. We'll do all the buffer management so that it actually goes to the snare channel. Okay, BeatScaler is here. Right, here it is. Displays. Now let's pick audio from BeatScaler, and first of all, we're going to select kick to make it easy for us. Oh, and I need to click multi-out. Okay. Ooh, I have an index problem here. Okay, this is wrong. I get instead of the kick, I get the wrong one. I get the snare. Okay. So I need to do some logical fixing here. It's close, very close. So I think that it's just like a stupid problem I did in the processing for the pad groups. I think it was called pad groups. And I think this needs to be +1 because the groups are always one ahead, and if it's not multi-out, it's gonna put it in 0 anyway. So I think this was the because the reason is just a logical thing in BeatScaler. In BeatScaler, the first stereo output is always the main or default one, and we actually use this logic in here so that in this output, if we ask for an output that doesn't exist, like let's say I tell the buses manager thing, give me output number 5, and the host says, you know, the DAW didn't give me 5 outputs, it just gave me 3 or something. So it's going to default to mix it into the main one. And we do that so that you're not going to miss any channels. Like let's say you work in multi-out mode. For example, Ableton might not give you all the channels, or you might want to mix it. I don't want you to miss out on some of the possibilities of sound. Like I don't want you to hear a partial preset. I still want you to hear all the sounds. And at worst, you're going to get less control because they're all going to be mixed together. But this I think is a better default. So let's see if I got this correct now. Here's BeatScaler. Loaded, there it is. I'm switching to multi-out. So you can hear, I hear all the different sounds. Now, audio from BeatScaler, from kick. That works, I get the kick. Let's get the snare. Now it works. Hear that? Awesome. So now I can pick something, let's pick hi-hat closed. Now it works without the need to map all of those. Perfect, I got it, and I got it right in time because I actually have to leave. So this was a great fix. Let's commit this. So first of all, so basically it's sampler added use of the new multibus to work with unmapped channels. BeatScholar added the new multibus to work with unmapped channels. Great. So we got this fixed, and it should be out soon in the new BeatScholar update. All right. Thank you, Nick. Hopefully this was useful. Like, the idea is, yeah, like this was a weird bug because people reported this, and you had to explain to them, hey, you got to map these by order. Like, you want the snare, also you have to map the kick, which you might not even be interested in. So that was an important fix, I believe. All right, I might go back later for another stream, but this, I think, was good and hopefully educational. I need to go and meet a friend, have some breakfast or something, because it's pretty early. And yeah, feel free to subscribe if you're watching this on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Feel free to subscribe whenever you're watching this. My YouTube is a fun place to hang. My LinkedIn is a nice place to hang in, I hope. Feel free to send me any questions. And have a good day, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are.